From Your World Discovered, my name is David Ewen on EPN. My guest today is Charlotte Roth. Her website is charlotterothbooks.com. Charlotte is the first name, that's one L and two T's. Roth is R-O-T-H. And the website is charlotterothbooks.com. And we're reaching her from Washington State, so let's say hello to Charlotte. Hello, Charlotte.
Hi. How are you?
I am doing great, and I'm excited to talk to you about your writing. Let's first talk to you about you as a writer, and then we'll talk about your books. How long have you been writing?
Well, it's hard to put a precise years on that, but I always have tons of stories in my head. I started writing as a teenager, but I don't think I really trusted myself to be good enough to write. But I think the education I have a master's degree in arts and communication, always were in that path. It was always like steering towards something creative. But I really started writing 10 years ago.
So 10 years ago, what was the straw that was on the camel's back that said, okay, I'll do it? What made you say, okay, I'm going to be an author, I'm going to do it, it's going to be real? What made that happen?
Well, it takes a lot of time. You need a lot of time to write. You can't just, I admire people who work 2 shifts and can write. I was so fortunate that we moved to Seattle, and from all the way from Denmark. So I told my husband that there was a few conditions that had to be fulfilled on my part to move. And 1, there had to be a direct flight back to, mom and dad. 2, I wanted to have the opportunity to stay at home and write. So that was what triggered it. I had a son, he was 1 at the time, and I started writing. But still, you don't write full time when you have a 1-year-old. But I started slowly.
So you were changing diapers. That certainly cures the nail-biting habit, and you were writing.
Yes.
Very good.
But also, as you can tell, if you go on my website, it took a long, long time to write that first book, because I started when he was 1, and then as I was writing that book and he was out of his diapers, I actually got pregnant with twins, and that didn't help the writing.
Okay. So the whole writing became part of the family as well.
It did, and actually, so as you can tell in my first book, Lost in Seattle, Miss Applepants, it reflects also what happened in that period of time, because, you write what you are, and you are what you write, and it actually influenced like what was going on in my life and why it took like 5 years to write it too. So
it is the case that your writing is certainly influenced by your personal life to some extent, not so much, I'm not saying so much the plot or the setting, but in what way would you say raising a family has influenced the writing? What did you gain in starting a family, and how did that influence your writing?
I actually think that it has made me a more grounded person to be a mother, and I think that changed my writing from like wanting to be like, ooh, this entertainer, it has to be haha funny, and I still write mostly funny books, but it also has like a lot more conflict, and it runs a little deeper, like it deals with a lot of stuff that's happening around me and what happened to me, like, conflict in the past with family, or infertility, or, dealing with stuff. Watching your kids grow up, it's going to make you look at the world a different way. Like not my last book, but the book before that was about this whole body image awareness. I have 2 girls. I see the world as treating young women. I don't know, it's terrifying that we all have to be super skinny and they have to be a certain standard. And that influenced a lot about my writing, because I have girls now. And the last book I wrote was about a school shooting and a mom's grief, and a mom's like all her worries and how she struggles to keep her son alive. And I wouldn't have been able to write this book without having kids. I don't think I could.
Early on, you mentioned you write about some funny things, and now you just talked about some things that were a little more serious.
Yes.
How would you categorize yourself as an author? If someone wanted to know, well, Charlotte Roth writes these kinds of books, tell me what these kinds of books are.
So I write for an audience that is totally me, which means it's a woman. Well, I've had male readers, but it's for women, and it's strong female characters, and it's really a lot about family values and how I value family as the most important thing in my life. But it's also funny because I do, and I think that's my Danish humor comes in a little bit, and I have to tone it down sometimes, but most of my books are a little lighter, like women's fiction, crossover chick lit. But the last one was a little bit more serious. It was just a book I felt I had to write. It was a very, very different from all the other books, but that's how stories sometimes come to you. It's not like, I don't have this formula. I know a lot of indie authors, they have this formula of how they have to write in order for it to be like a success. Like they write in a certain scheme or something, but I don't really do that. My stories come to me. I know it sounds very artsy, but that's how it works.
So tell us a little bit about your latest project that you're working on or plan to work on.
So my latest book, I am 45,000 words into it right now, which is 2/3. That actually came about. So I did this. I was involved in this body image awareness campaign, and we talked a lot about how we're also obsessed with this, having this perfect life, this perfect body, and you go on Facebook and everyone's happy and prettier, and they're, everyone's good looking. So, and I started wondering, like, how much would you give or sacrifice to get the perfect life? So this is about pursuing perfection, and what do you leave behind? So it's a very complex, it's more like it's kind of a dystopian sci-fi, because there's a city, it's called the Planet Perfect, and a couple is giving the opportunity to go there. But in order to go there, they have to give up a lot. They have to sell their, the soul to the devil, if you can say that.
What is your expectation from the audience from that book? What do you think the audience will say?
I hope they will reflect upon what is really important in your life. Is it really important to have this perfect life on the outside? Is it really important to have the perfect house, the perfect front yard? What is really, really important? Because I think we get lost in stuff like that, especially with the social media being everywhere. Everywhere you look. And I think people feel insecure. We feel less. We feel like everyone else is doing better because everything looks so nice when you turn towards social media.
Do your books often have a message? And what would you say your theme is for your messages?
Well, it's different from each book, because all the books are standalones. But with my first book, I really love my first book. I think it's cute. I think the message from there is like family values, and I didn't have that good of a childhood, so I think that was my way of compensating for, like, what would the perfect family look like. So that's about family values, and the next book is also about family values, just in a little different way. It's about a middle-aged woman. She questions her marriage when she meets her ex-fiance in Rome, and she has to reevaluate what's really important to her. The next one is also about family values and about body image awareness, and about what's important in life, and do you dare do what you were supposed to do, even though everyone says you can't do it?
What have your readers been saying? What have people come back to you with, and how are they responding to your books?
The response is, the last book I wrote, Holding On to Hurt, that is probably the most heartfelt response I've ever had, because people say that it made them think about life. It made them have a conversation with their kids. It made them cry through the whole book, which is kind of an odd thing to go after, but it's it shows me that I'm not saying I made a difference, but I'm saying that it touched them somewhere. And if I can make people laugh and cry at the same time, or I think that's pretty awesome.
So it sounds like you try to stretch emotions. For example, what you had just said, you try to get people to laugh and cry, and those books tend to be very popular. How do you manage to do that, to stretch the emotions?
Well, to be honest, I think I'm just very honest. I mean, and I don't think to begin with when I was writing, I think I said that I was trying too hard to entertain people. Like, what would they like? No, it's just like what feels right. I mean, I will sit at Starbucks crying myself or laughing. And I know that if it makes me laugh or cry, it's probably going to make other people feel that way too. I mean, my husband just started reading my latest book, and we went on the airplane and he had to put it down. He's like, I can't read this. And he was like looking at our kids and like, how can you write such stuff when you have kids? It's too hard. But and I don't think can't be afraid to use all your own experiences, to use all the hurt, all the tears you've had, everything. You have to use yourself.
Very good, very good. And where do you see yourself, say, 5 years from now? What kind of a writer do you want to evolve into?
I think I want to dig deeper, because I think that's part of getting better at writing and getting better at staying in touch with those emotions and digging them out a little bit more, not being so afraid what other people think or if other people like it or not, but if I like it. And I think staying true to what I really like, instead of like trying to be the new writing a new Harry Potter. I could never write a Harry Potter book because I don't have that universe in my head. That's not my kind of writing. I would never try to force a genre on me that didn't feel right. So it just have to feel right. And I have 3 or 5 stories after the next one, and I have them because they mean something to me. If that makes sense.
It does. It does. My guest today has been Charlotte Roth. Her website is charlotterothbooks.com. Her first name is Charlotte. That's Charlotte. Her last name is Roth, Roth. And the website is charlotterothbooks.com. Charlotte, thank you for joining me on Your World Discovered.
Well, thanks for having me. That was fun.
My name is David Ewen. This is Your World Discovered, and this is EPN.